Thank you, Ann. That was gone. That was awesome. As always.
Fun song.
Yeah. Okay, so our reading today comes from Mark 12, verses 24 through 34, in the New King James Version of the Bible. Then one of the scribes came, having heard them reasoning together, perceived that he had answered them well, and asked, which is the first commandment of all? And Jesus answered him, the first of all commandments is, Hear, O Israel, the Lord our God, the Lord is one. And you shall love the Lord your God with all of your heart and all of your soul, with all of your mind and with all of your strength. This is the first commandment. And the second is like it. This is, you shall love your neighbor as yourself. There is no commandment greater than these. So the scribe said to him, well said, teacher, you have spoken the truth, for there is one God, and there are no other but he. And to love him with all of our heart and with all of our understanding, with all the soul and with all the strength, and to love the neighbor as oneself is more than all the whole burnt offerings and sacrifices. Now then, Jesus saw that he had answered wisely. He said to him, you are not far from the kingdom of God. But after that, no one dared to question him. And we say, thank you, wonderful God, for this. And so our speaker today is speaking to us on, there it is. He's speaking to us about, I accept God's love for everyone. Now this speaker took intersensitivity first in 1968. That's a long time ago. And she became an inner Christ counselor in 1971. And she was a licensed minister in 1971 also. She was commissioned as an itinerant ministry to schools and so on. So she went out to schools and things. She, let's see what else. Okay, and she renewed her license in 1976. And then she retired for a while. But she's back with us now. And she started intersensitivity again in 2019. So here she is. Yeah.
It never ends.
She's been with this guy. She's one of the original signers of the declaration of the TIC, the opening of the TIC movement. She's one of the first. Her and her mother and her brother. If you go look at that after service, you'll see their names on there. And I think, wow, that's a long time. Yeah. Well, as I said, she's going to speak to us about I accept God's love for everyone. Please help me welcome Reverend Minister in retirement, or bringing her out of retirement as a guest speaker, Ann Delamo. Let's give her a big hand. I found your card.
Oh, you sure did.
I found your history. Well, actually, Jennifer
Past
found it.
follows us everywhere. Okay. Good morning and welcome out there in the beloved internet land. Accepting God's love for everyone. Let's do an experiment. And maybe go back to when you were in your childhood, which for some of us is a while back. I hear people say, if you remember the 60s, you weren't there. It was a very busy time. But close your eyes for a moment and just get ready to visualize. When the word God is mentioned, what's the first image or feeling that comes to your mind's eye and heart? What's your immediate reaction? Do we have any images that anybody would care to share as a child? Yes.
I was raised in a metaphysical religion, and so there was a saying that God is love, so love comes to mind when I, as a child.
Oh, lucky you. I was raised by a secular upbringing. One side of the family were pretty much all atheists and agnostics, and the other ones were like, I don't know about this. They weren't too thrilled with a lot of religion. My father was raised in Catholicism, but he abandoned it for some reason. I don't know what happened, but he respected it, but he stayed away from it. Anyway, what I hear a lot is like the man upstairs, arguing over gender, and my view was when I was a little kid and I heard my friends talk about it, it was like an angry white guy up in the sky who had a lot of rules. He wasn't happy with his creations if they didn't follow this endless list of stuff. And then he created this elaborate bureaucracy to enforce the rules with a multitude of rituals and stuff. And that's what it looked like to me when I was a child. I'm going, what is this? And I didn't come to appreciate the other parts of most of our religions that on the earth that accentuate dealing with mortality and community and holding each other up, because there's a common thread through all of it that I think comes with being a human being. And then I also found out sometimes it was wise to avoid some of the followers so it didn't create discord and arguments. Many people feel that others are not accepted by their particular culture, and their personal and tribal view of God is the absolute truth, and everybody else is off the mark. I heard a comedian call it that that calls it the first universal church of I'm right and you're wrong. Mm-hmm. And we've just seen this when people just get so into these bubbles of and forgetting like we all pretty much have the same creator, and we are really kind of dwelling in what Mike Dooley, who's a metaphysical teacher, he calls it the jungles of time and space. So we're just learning more. And sometimes we think that our part of the jungle is the part of the jungle and kind of forget about the rest of it. I know in Catholicism that in the catechism that they define themselves as the one holy Catholic church, the true church. Mm-hmm. And then the Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints has a doctrine that the only true and living church upon the face of the earth. So there we are. That happens with nations, and this is one thing we're trying to like work our way out of, because we found out it isn't always helpful. So I asked myself at a young age, what is this? The guy says, we're it. We're the hottest thing on the planet. We're the newest thing on the planet. Everybody else is full of malarkey, to put it politely. And maybe we all need to update our views. So I think that's the process that's happening now, because there is a lot of change on the planet. I have friends in New Zealand, and they got whacked with a hurricane. I mean, New Zealand, and that's not exactly a tropical island. The end of it is about the same latitude as Santa Barbara. And this thing came in, they call them cyclones, and it really, really made a mess of things. And I saw it on the weather map, and I noticed, I went, what is that? It's a hurricane. New Zealand? Anyway, they're all okay. They posted on Facebook that they were fine, but there's a lot of flooding. And then, yesterday I heard somebody in their grocery store saying, there's snow on the Hollywood sign. And for the first time, the Weather Bureau in San Diego posted a blizzard warning for the mountains behind Los Angeles and in our own mountains. And don't even think of going down the Grapevine, because that's up at 4,000 feet, and they had a bunch of snow. Yeah. And it's incredible. So something is happening, and maybe we don't know why, but nature goes through this, and so do we. So I I was amazed, and it's like, I hear, sometimes we laugh at ourselves, we say, I don't like change, and I don't like the way things are, and so on and so forth. I know that what is known as our scriptures that we have and that most religious organizations have is based on the experience and history of one human being or group of humans. And it's translated and retranslated, interpreted and reinterpreted. There's missing books in the Bible. I read somewhere that Revelations almost didn't get into the Bible that we know today. And that was one whale of a book to read, and it almost didn't get there. But and only 200 years ago, there were like 19 books of the Bible that were taken out
Oh.
and are present. And it's like 1 Esdras, 2 Esdras, the book of Tobit, the book of Susanna, additions to Esther, the book of Judith, Wisdom of Solomon, Ecclesiasticus, Baruch, blessing, the Epistle of Jeremiah, the prayer of Azariah, Bel and the dragon, a prayer of Manasseh, 1 Maccabees, 2 Maccabees, which is still in the Catholic Bible because Marianne and I got out our Bible collection, and she still has her Catholic Bible that's been much used. And there it was. And then I looked in the ones I had, no Maccabees. So, Book of Enoch, Book of Jubilees, Gospel of Philip, and the Gospel of Mary. So, when I was a younger person, I realized, well, that's not the whole story. We're always updating, and we're always learning new things. And we've come to believe that scriptures are, Ann Meyer used to say, our founder, our co-founder, that the scriptures are written on our heart, and when we meditate, we go to that to add on to the wisdom that's been accumulated, our cultural treasure of the Bible and Upanishads, Hindu, the Quran, and many of the writings that people have accumulated through the ages. Much of my spiritual education came from the principles that are expressed in unity and many of the metaphysical things, because there's a huge push towards the principles of creation, as well as the principles. And I know that in science, we have a God that doesn't seem to have a personality, because I have a scientific upbringing and as well as education. And it's based mostly on observation, study, and research, and experimentation, and going through processes. Neil deGrasse Tyson, who's the famous astrophysicist, says, "For me, when I say spiritual, I'm referring to a feeling that you would have that connects you with the universe in a way that may defy simple vocabulary. We think of the universe as an intellectual playground, which it surely is. But the moment you learn something that touches the emotion, that is something more than something intellectual, I would call that a spiritual encounter with the universe." I'm not trying to convert people, he says. I don't care, he further says. Happily, humans blunder into the use of principles of the universe, even in the use of what might be a limited vision of God and humanity. But the basic principles are all there in the page. Principles such as those in the physical world. And I think that the spiritual versus religion being a human construction, which is fine because it really helps a lot of people, and we need to keep that in mind. I feel that spiritual relates more to principles and God's relate to personalities. Principles such as in the physical world, like electricity, unseen, usually unfelt, can't smell it, radio waves, can't see them. You need to have a receiver for them. If you build a house up to code and you wire it up to code, there's no doubt that when you flip the switch, the lights will turn on, and you could put lamps anywhere you want in the house, no matter what kind of a house it is. The only ritual is if you're gonna mess with the wiring, to turn the circuit off. So there's a safety in that we learn in dealing with natural principles. Spiritual principles have the same nature, and they reflect how the universe works. And principles in the mental world and in the other levels of the universe where humans exist. So much power, and it's an unseen, like, people ask, where is God? Well, where is the internet? It lives in a million machines. It's in the cloud. You can store your things in the cloud. So if something comes and breaks your computer, you can get it back out. So when we meditate, it's kind of like getting into this unseen world that we, in our day-to-day, that we don't usually experience. And it is rather like getting on the internet. But you do need to be specific about where you're going, and there's also to allow for safety, that there's certain routes that, well, maybe you shouldn't go down that road. It's snowed in, and you'll be there for weeks. But what it does, I think all humans have the same problems of fear and worry, health concerns, and all of us have ways to use an infinite intelligence to treat them. Spiritual principles work for all of us, like the idea of the house with the lights. God's love works through everybody. It's a science as well as a faith. And it helps us to make, in these times of change, the transformation of this sort that lets us use the most difficult situations in our lives to catapult us further into better health, greater prosperity, and deeper understanding. We here at TIC are involved in exploring and refining spiritual principles safely in a way that doesn't limit us to the screen of cultural perception. Helps us get out of the bubble. Everyone gets to do their own research and experiments as we learn to grow into our individual blueprint. One size does not fit all, but the same principles run through all of it. We can build any kind of house and put lights in it. And that is the power of transformation, and that's God's love for everything, because the universe keeps changing, like in the song. You just have things evolving and being created and changing. So that is what we study here, and it is a process. It's pretty daunting sometimes to not look at appearances, but to sink in, dig into the truth of the situation. And when things are going sideways, it's like in your car and you're skidding, it's like, oh no, and feeling very powerless and frustrated, whatever. But we learn in our studies, as others do in their faith, to trust that inner voice, that intuition, the inner teaching. For myself, I had issues with alcohol. Boy, did I. I was the issue and the alcohol was the... But through study and through... I went to a famous 12-step program, the first one, and so I have managed to be clean and sober for 31 years. Mm-hmm. And that doesn't happen. And that's a miracle. And so I've learned that the power of fellowship that we have here as well, and other health issues I've been working on and working with. But it'd be nice if we could just walk on water and manifest it, but it seems like, well, maybe there's no time and space, but where we are in the jungles of time and space, and maybe we came here to learn about that. But it's to be patient with ourselves and just baby steps, a day at a time. Love your friends, accept God's love for everybody, even if they're like religious fanatics or something in your estimation, or they don't care, but that spark is with all of us, and I've seen it come out in people that look like lost causes, and now they're like productive and happy, and I guess that's what we can hope for. So with that, let's go back here. So it's like, for me, it's like, well, we meditate and pray and channel, and we also get busy. When we're presented with a mountain to climb, we will find that we have a process and a practice. It's like somebody gives you a bulldozer to make a road to get up that mountain. But then you have to learn how to care for the bulldozer, and how to drive it and not fall off the cliff, how to get into gear and use it safely, and how we can carve our path up whatever mountain we seem to be confronted with. And so I guess that's about it. And thank you for attention. Thank you, Internet. Try and use what you have within you and share it with your friends, and we'll all get there wherever we're going. It's great to see everybody here. Thanks again.
Thank you, Ann.
You're very welcome.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. Oh, wow. Now, we have the opportunity to share of our abundance with the teaching of the inner Christ. And for those of you in internet land, you can do that by going to our website at teachingoftheinnerchrist.org. We greatly appreciate anything that you would like to put into our donation place. And so now I call forward our usher. And we can sing,